Hi guys and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the iconically beautiful Romy Schneider. Romy Schneider, born Rosemary Magdalena Aubach in 23 September 1938, was a German-French actress. She began her career in the German Heimatfilm genre in the early 50s when she was 15. From 1955 to 1957, she played the central character of Empress Elizabeth of Austria in the Austrian Sisi trilogy, and later reprised the role in a more mature version in Luchino Visconti's Ludwig in 1973. Schneider moved to France, where she made successful and critically acclaimed films with some of the most notable film directors of that era. Her early life she was born in Aubach in Vienna 6 months after the Anschluss of Austria into Nazi Germany to actors Magda Schneider and Wolf Aubach-Retty. Her paternal grandmother Rosa Aubach-Retty was also an actress. Schneider's mother was German while her father was Austrian. 4 weeks after Romy's birth, her parents brought her to Schönau am Königssee in Germany, where she and later her brother Wolf Dieter, who was born in 1948, grew up with their grandparents Franz Xaver and Maria Schneider on the country estate of Mariengrund. In her first year, Romy was cared for by a governess. Her parents were very rarely present due to their acting engagements. In 1943, they separated and were divorced in 1945. In September 1944, Schneider was enrolled in the elementary school of Schönau, and from July 1949 she attended the girls' boarding school at Castle Goldenstein, a private secondary school of the Augustinian Canoness of the Congregation of Notre Dame in Eusbetin near Salzburg. Already during her school days, she discovered her passion for acting, which is why she was often on stage at theatrical performances at the residential school. In her diary entry of 10th of June 1959, she wrote, "If it were up to me, I would immediately become an actress. Every time I see a nice movie, my first thoughts are about the idea. I definitely have to become an actress. Yes, I have to." On 12th of July 1953, she left the residential school with a degree of Mittelreife. After the summer holidays, she moved to Cologne to join her mother, who lived there with the restaurateur and entrepreneur Hans Herbert Blatzheim. After her parents divorced in 1945, Magda took charge of Romy and her brother, eventually supervising the young girl's career, often appearing alongside her daughter. Her career was also overseen by her stepfather, who Schneider indicated had an unhealthy interest in her. Schneider's first film, made when she was 15, was When the White Lilacs Bloom Again, credited as Romy Schneider Aubach. In 1954, Schneider for the first time portrayed a royal, playing a young Queen Victoria in the Australian film Magda Njar Al Koning, known in the US as The Story of Vicky and in Britain as Victoria in Dover. Schneider's breakthrough came with her portrayal of Empress Elizabeth of Austria in the romantic biopic Sisi in 1955, and its two sequels, Sisi the Young Empress in 1956 and Sisi Fateful Years of an Empress a year later, all with Karl-Heinz Baum, who became a close friend. Less stereotypical films during this busy period include The Girl and the Legend, Working with a Young Horse, Buchholz, and Montpthe, directed by Helmut Keutner, again with Buchholz. Schneider soon starred in Christine in 1958, a remake of Max Ophuls' 1933 film Liebelei, in which her mother Magda Schneider had played the same role. It was during the filming of Christine that Schneider fell in love with French actor Alain Delon, who co-starred in the movie. She left Germany to join him in Paris, and they announced their engagement in 1959. Schneider decided to live and to work in France, slowly gaining the interest of film directors such as Orson Welles for The Trio, based on Franz Kafka The Trio. She was also introduced to Luchino Visconti. Under Visconti's direction, she gave performances in the Theatre Moderne as Annabelle and Delon as Giovanni in John Ford's stage play This Pity She's a Whore in 1961, and in the film Boccaccio 70s segment The Job. In 1962, Schneider played Anna in Sasha Pitov production of Chekhov's play The Seagull, also at the Theatre Moderne. A brief stint in Hollywood included a starring role in Good Neighbor Sam, a comedy with Jack Lemmon, and What's New Pussycat in '65, in which Schneider co-starred with Peter O'Toole, Peter Sellers, and Woody Allen. Schneider and Delon decided to separate in December 1963, although they remained close, lifelong friends. They continued to work together in such films as La Piscine, The Swimming Pool in 1968, and The Assassination of Trotsky in 1972. Schneider continued to work in France during the 70s, most notably with director Claude Sautot on 5 films. The first collaboration, The Things of Life, in 1970, featuring Michel Piccoli, made Schneider an icon in France. The three collaborated again for the noir thriller Max et les Ferrailleurs, which translated means Max and the Junkman in '71, and she appeared with Yves Montand in Sautot's Caesar et Rosalie in '72. Paris Match wrote in 1971, 40 years after Greta and Marlene, 15 years after Marilyn, the screen again has a great star. Schneider portrayed a more mature and realistic Elizabeth of Austria in Ludwig's 1973 Visconti's film about the life of King Ludwig II of Bavaria. "Sissy sticks to me just like oatmeal," Schneider once said. Other successes from this period included La Train, Claude Chabrol's thriller Innocence with Dirty Hands, with Rob Steiger, and Le Vox Fusil in 1975. The gritty, that most important thing, Love, garnered her first Caesar Award, a feat she appeared 5 years later in her last collaboration with Sautot for A Simple Story in 1978. On 3rd of October 1974, Schneider created one of the most memorable moments on German television. She was the second guest on Dietmar Schoner's talk show Je Spatter der Abend, later the evening, when she, after a rather terse interview, remarked passionately to the last guest, bank robber and author Burkhard Riest. And I will translate this: I like you a lot. She also acted in the Internal Trio 1974 with Michel Piccoli, with Michel Serrault, and Lino Ventura. An unpleasant incident occurred during this period with leading German film director Rainer Werner Fassbinder, who wanted to cast her as the lead in his film The Marriage of Maria Braun. Negotiations broke down when he called Schneider a dumb cow, to which she responded by declaring she would never work with such a beast. Fassbinder cast Hannah Shigula instead, reviving his professional association with an actress to whom he had also been offensive. Schneider starred in Bertrand Tavernier's Dead Watch in 1980, playing a dying woman whose last days are watched on national television via a camera implanted in the brain of a journalist, Harvey Keitel. It's based on David Compton's novel. Schneider's last film was La Passante du Sans Souci, The Passerby in 1982. Following the end of her relationship with Delon, Schneider married German director and actor Harry Mayen in 1966. They later divorced. The couple had a son, David Christopher, born in 1966, and in July 1981, David died at the age of 14 after attempting to climb the spiked fence at his stepfather's parents' home and puncturing his femoral artery in the process. She had love affairs with Oswald Coulet and actor Bruno Ganz. She had a brief affair with Jean-Louis Trintignant while filming The Train. She also had in 1974 a brief affair with Jacques Dutronc while filming That Most Important Thing, Love. Schneider appeared as one of 28 women under the banner "We Have Had Abortions" on the cover page of the West German magazine Stern on 6th of June 1971. In that issue, 374 women publicly stated that they had had pregnancies terminated, which at that time was illegal. In 1975, Schneider married Daniel Biasini, her private secretary. They divorced in 1981. Their daughter Sarah is an actress. Her last romantic partner was film producer Laurent Petain, born in 1949. In her 2018 biography, Romy Schneider, in Time, Alice Schwarzer revealed that Schneider confided to her that she had sexual relationships with women and was deeply in love with her close friend Simone Signoret. Schneider then began drinking alcohol excessively after her son's death. However, Schneider's friend and sister of Laurent Petain, Claude Petain, said that she no longer drank at the time of her death and that she is convinced it was a natural death. Schneider was found dead in her Paris apartment on 29th of May 1982. The examining magistrate Laurent Devanès declared that she died from cardiac arrest. Claude Petain said that Schneider's cardiac arrest was due to a weakened heart caused by a kidney operation she had months before. Her tombstone at Puissy Sans-Avoir, Yvelines, bears her birth name Rosemary Aubach. Funeral guests were Jean-Claude Brialy, Michel Piccoli, Jean-Luc Debady, Jean Rochefort, Claude Sautot, Claude Leloch, Gerard Depardieu, her brother Wolf Dieter, former husband Daniel Biasini, and Laurent Petain. Shortly afterwards, Alain Delon arranged for her son David to be buried in the same grave. The French journalist Eugénie Morneau initiated in 1984 the Prix Romy Schneider. It's one of the most prestigious awards for upcoming actresses in the French film industry and is given by a jury each year in Paris in conjunction with the Prix Patrick Devoirie, formerly the Prix Jean Gabin. In 1919, the Austrian newspaper Courier created the Romy TV Award in honor of Schneider. In 2003, she was voted 78 on the list of the greatest Germans in the German TV program, the second highest ranked actress on that list. Until 2002, the Austrian Federal Railways intercity services IC 535 from Sudenhof to Graz was named Romy Schneider. A movie about Schneider's life titled Eine Frau wie Romy, Une femme comme Romy, A Woman Like Romy, was planned by Warner Bros. For 2009, Schneider's role was going to be played by Yvonne Katterfeld. The project was cancelled in July 2009. A musical about Schneider, Romy, Die Welt aus Gold, Romy the Golden World, was premiered in 2009 at the theater Heilbronn. In November 2009, the Art broadcast the feature film Romy with Jessica Schwartz in the title role. The film 3 Days in Quiberon by Emily Attev describes a 1981 episode in Schneider's life in the French town of Quiberon. On 23rd of September 2020, Google celebrated her 82nd birthday with a Google Doodle in Germany, France, Austria, Iceland and Ukraine. The culture broadcast Arte dedicated a documentary to Romy Schneider and Alain Delon, Romy and Alain, the Eternal Betrothed, 2022. The German-French actress Romy Schneider was adored during her lifetime and still is today, exactly 4 decades after her untimely death on May 29, 1982. Both her aura and her passion for acting are unforgotten. Romy Schneider was and is one of the greatest German actresses ever, a goddess. Berlin, September 23, 2019. Update. May 27, 2022. The Berlin Spectator. The fact that Romy Schneider's private life was spread all over the media made many people see her as some kind of a family member or at least a friend they would accommodate in their living room while the TV set was switched on or while she was filming at she was smiling at them from a million magazine covers. She is unforgettable to generations. The little girl from Vienna. Both France and Germany followed her while she was looking for fulfillment both in her private life and in her acting career. It seems she wanted everything at once. According to people she knew, she insisted on uninterrupted attention at home and she wanted the same at the film set. When the shooting for one of her countless movies was over, she is said to have been the unhappiest person on the world. Romy Schneider, the German diva, just could not digest the breaks in between those exciting moments of her short life. In her early films, she was the little girl from Vienna when she was born into a family of actors. Even her great-grandfather was in the business. What she wrote into her diary while attending a boarding school for girls as a teenager might have been dictated by her genes. I need to become an actress. I just have to. And then a complete metamorphose. Her image changed over the course of her impressive career. At some point, she wasn't that little girl anymore, but the big star from Paris, the female fatale. All of a sudden, she did not want to be German anymore. I want to be completely French regarding the way I live, love, sleep and dress, she said. In 1963, she had obviously reached that goal when the German Spiegel magazine said this: "The young Parisian is not German anymore, not at all. There is no accent anymore, or at least very little. There is no appetite anymore and no bad taste. This is a complete metamorphose." The German yellow press and many fans were disappointed. How could she do what she wanted to do by moving to France? They called her a traitor, a traitress, and far worse. All the love converted to anger. It became pretty ugly. But in the mid-70s, even the Germans forgave her. As tragic as movie characters, Romy Schneider did not only change in her private life but also on screen. Instead of the virtuous girl, she became a sex symbol. The amount of uncovered skin in her movies increased substantially. Her makeup changed too, along with the nature of the characters she portrayed. The latter became rather tragic in many motion pictures. She experimented and learned over time, but the actress Romy Schneider was a genius. Since she never set foot in any acting school, not even for a minute, everyone was and still is convinced she had inherited her gift. The camera loved her and she loved the camera. This is the accurate conclusion Frederick Baker came to when he worked on a documentary about her. Some colleagues and directors believed that some of the roles she played in the 60s and 70s had a lot in common with Romy Schneider's herself. This was something she disputed. "Anyone who thinks I'm like the characters I play is an idiot," she said, according to Günther Kren, who wrote a biography entitled Romy Schneider. "Nobody will ever know. Some say the legendary star had two careers. Her first big success was the flick Sissy, in which she played the fairy tale princess. Germany just loved that one. Back then, her mother, Magda Schneider, was quoted by the Welt daily as saying people were into Romy so much because they feel there finally is a creature who has not come in contact with all the filth in the world. Her second career started later with the more tragic and more filthy flicks. Romy Schneider was born on September 23rd, 1938, 83 years ago. The circumstances of her death have never been clarified. She and her partner Petin were invited to dinner at his brother's place in Paris. On the way home, they talked about weekend plans. That night, Romy Schneider wanted to stay up late in order to listen to music. In the early morning hours of May 29th, he found her lying on her desk. Because an autopsy was not performed, it will never be known what happened. A suicide was ruled out. At the same time, everyone knew about alcohol and tablet addictions she had been suffering from, and maybe still was until her untimely death. Incredible filmography. The end of her life was difficult. In 1981, she found out her trustee had misappropriated her entire fortune. Due to a tumor, she lost one of her kidneys, and her son died at the age of 14 while trying to climb a fence. But she still had her daughter Sarah, who is a product of her short marriage with her former secretary Danielle Piassini. Earlier, actually very early on, Romy Schneider was engaged to Alain Delon when he was still a nobody. At first, she kept on talking about wanting a family. Once she had one, she escaped. She was jealous when others were more successful than she was, but also warm-hearted like nobody else. And she tried to live life to the fullest. Romy Schneider's filmography is just incredible. When the white lilacs bloom again at an expositional sounding board outside of the interview, it's believed that Schneider did have a friend visiting at the time. This somewhat anticlimactic series of alcohol-fueled hotel room encounters in the early hours of the next morning, or the more sober heart-to-hearts as between Fritsch and Jurgs, does grow tiresome. The film needs a more climatic, dramatic arc in the second half to sustain and propel the narrative. The acting from all four players, however, cannot be faulted, nor can Thomas Kienast's cinematography, which captures the Anadone Hotel, the windswept beach out of a season, and the claustrophobic hotel rooms so well that you can almost see the stale odor of damp sheets, unmade beds, wine glasses, and uncollected room service. On May 29, 1982, the 43-year-old actress Romy Schneider died alone in her flat in Paris. With her films from the 70s, at the latest, the actress proved that she had long since emerged from the candy-floss world of CC films. At that time, she had already been working for 15 years mainly in France, where she is still counted among the grandest dames of cinema. Renowned directors from Luchino Visconti, Claude Sautot, Bertrand Tavernier to Costa Gavras have had her in front of the camera, and her film partners of this period are the who's who of French cinema. She won her first César in 1975 for her role in the film That Important Thing, Love. Romy Schneider's life was turbulent and marked by many tragic strokes of fate. At the latest, with the accidental death of her son in 1981, she seemed to have lost all her footing. Her heavy consumption of alcohol and tablets, a constant companion for years, got more and more out of control. She died under circumstances that remain unclear to this day. Her partner at the time, the French film producer Laurent Petin, found her slumped, lifeless, at her desk in the early morning with an unfinished handwritten letter lying next to her. The official cause of death was heart failure, but an autopsy was never performed, and so suicide rumors quickly circulated. Romy Schneider was buried in the cemetery of the small village of Boissy-Sans-Avoyre, her last place of residence. And by all of the men she had been, the one that actually organized her funeral was Alain Delon. After Harry after Harry Mayen and Schneider married, their son David was born in December of the same year. In the following 2 years, Romy Schneider devoted herself exclusively to her duties as a wife and mother. It was not until 1968 that Romy Schneider began filming again. In '69, she acted again in the film Swimming Pool at the side of her ex-lover Alain Delon. The film became one of her greatest successes. A series of films followed in the '70s, including such well-known and successful ones as Love at the Top, The Inferno Trio, The Old Gun, and That Most Important Thing, Love. In 1975, Romy Schneider divorced Harry Mayen. At this time, Romy Schneider was already in a relationship with Daniel Biasini, her private secretary, whom she married the same year. After the birth of her daughter Sarah, she made one of her most successful films ever in 1971 with the film A Simple Story. From then on, however, her life only went downhill. Her ex-husband Harry Mayen hanged himself in '79. Romy Schneider lost many of her fans' sympathies with the film Death Watch, the story of a sick, doomed woman who sold the rights to her death to a television company and broadcast. This film won some awards but failed with the audience. During the shooting of 3 other films, there were repeated problems because of Romy Schneider's excessive alcohol consumption. She appeared drunk on the set several times or did not appear at all. On 5th of July 1981, her son David was killed in an accident. This event threw her completely off course. Her second marriage with Daniel Biasini was at an end and she divorced him. Romy Schneider also had to undergo a serious kidney operation. Her complete downfall was prevented by her new lover, Laurent Petain. He gave her some stability again. Director Jacques Ruffalo persuaded her to make another film, The Passerby. It was to be her last film. On the night of 29th of May 1982, she died as a result of excessive tablet consumption. The death was not a suicide but a consequence of her tablet and alcohol addiction. Romy Schneider then was buried in the cemetery of the small village of Boissy-Sans-Avoyre, her last place of residence, and, like I mentioned, Alain Delon had organized her funeral. Her filmography is so unique and incredible, and she will always be one of the best actresses at that time. But I also think that she's going to be and is not only the best actresses at that time, but of all time. She has more than 15 films filmed, performing exceptional roles and memorable performances, and fans loved her. She always gives all of herself in her acting and personal life, and did her best as a woman and in her career. She definitely deserves the world to remember her, and she definitely deserved more support at the time of her death. It's so very unfortunate when great people part this earth. I am sure that she will always be remembered, and I hope that you guys like this video and you get to know her a little bit more, as she was always a muse and an inspiration to me for her prolific and great work ethic, and the fact that she always gives the best of herself to perform for her fans, for her audience, and for the craft of acting. She not only worked, but she actually lived and breathed this talent that she has. And yes, the camera loved her, but not only the camera, her fans and the people in her life loved her as well. I will always hold a special memory of her relationship with Alain Delon, like they really were the cutest. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked and enjoyed this. Please remember to subscribe for my channel, show your support and tune in for future content. Thank you.